Welcome back to today's update on Social Security changes and the next two stimulus packages. Today we're going to talk about the debt ceiling. Now, the average Social Security payment is $1,500 per month. Now, we're going to talk about whether or not the debt ceiling crisis could potentially freeze the November payments, what exactly is happening now, and if we think the debt ceiling crisis could potentially freeze Social Security payments as soon as November. So let's discuss the details in this video, but before we do, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. I also have a second channel, so if you guys could do me a really huge favor, click on the link that's in the description of this video, subscribe to my second channel. I'm actually going to be giving away a stimulus check on that channel just as a thank you for supporting my work. At this point, all of you have heard about the debt ceiling, but you might not know that this could potentially freeze Social Security payments as soon as next month. Now, this article is titled, "The Debt Ceiling Deadline Has Prompted Questions About Whether or Not Social Security Checks Will Go Out. Here is what we know." Now, guys, currently the average Social Security payment is about $1,500 per month, but whether or not November payments will go out is currently in question, and that is completely unacceptable. With over 50 million seniors and those who are disabled counting on Social Security benefits, counting on SSI and SSDI, all of these payments could be frozen if the government defaults on its payments. Now, at this point, most of you might have heard that October 18th is the expected deadline for when the federal government would default on its debt. And basically what this means is that the federal government would not be able to pay its bills, and although Social Security has a trust fund, they would not have immediate access to those funds, and Social Security payments probably would be frozen if the government defaults on its payments. Now, I don't want to freak you guys out. At the end of the day, I really think the government's going to figure this out, and I don't expect payments to be frozen. But it's a genuine possibility, so we have to talk about it, because if this happened, this would be a genuine crisis that would affect tens of millions of seniors and tens of millions of people who are disabled in this country. Now, of course, Democrats are blaming this on Republicans. Democrats are saying that Republicans and Democrats have come together for a century to raise the debt ceiling together. And now Republicans are holding the debt ceiling crisis just to try and prevent Democrats from approving their stimulus package. See, Republicans are trying to force Democrats to include the debt ceiling increase in their next stimulus package, which is going to be done using budget reconciliation. Now, Democrats don't want to do this for two reasons. First, it looks politically bad, because next year in 2022, there are elections in both the House and the Senate, and Republicans can go around blaming Democrats for raising the debt ceiling because they would have done it themselves. This looks really bad politically. It basically gives Republicans firepower to try and win those elections next year, not to mention win the presidency in 2024. So politically, raising the debt ceiling by yourself via one party is a bad move. Secondly, Democrats are already having a difficult time getting the stimulus package done without even including the debt ceiling bill in that package. Now, can you imagine Bernie Sanders and Joe Manchin agreeing on the debt ceiling increase? It's going to make things more difficult. This is something that President Biden is trying to blame Republicans for, and he said that Democrats helped Republicans raise the debt ceiling 3 times during the last president's administration. And he is calling them out, saying that it is completely unacceptable that Republicans are doing this. So let's take a look, see exactly what President Biden had to say. And guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you agree with President Biden or do you disagree? Because at the end of the day, Democrats have some fault in this as well. If they were working together as well as they should, they could include it in this budget reconciliation package and not have it be a huge issue. But in any case, let's take a look, see what President Biden said, then we'll discuss the details, what exactly is happening now, and what we expect to happen next when it comes to Social Security payments and the next two stimulus packages. And specifically, do we think Social Security payments will be frozen next month?
It will come as no surprise to you. I'd like to talk about what we need today to raise the debt limit, and why the Republicans in Congress what they're doing today is so reckless and dangerous in my view. The reason we have to raise the debt limit is in part because of the reckless tax and spending policies under the previous Trump administration. In 4 years, they incurred nearly $8 trillion. In 4 years, $8 trillion in additional debt, in bills we have to now pay off. That's more than a quarter of the entire debt incurred now outstanding after more than 200 years. And Republicans in Congress raised the debt 3 times when Donald Trump was president, and each time with Democrat support. But now they won't raise it, even though they're responsible for more than $8 trillion in bills incurred in 4 years under the previous administration. Folks, watching at home, you should know this is the Republican position. They won't vote to raise the debt limit to cover their own spending. Democrats voted with them to cover that spending the previous 4 years. They say Democrats should do it alone. But then they're threatening to use a procedural power called the filibuster, meaning that we'd have to get 60 votes, not 50 votes, to increase the debt limit. Not only are Republicans refusing to do their job, they're threatening to use their power, to prevent us from doing our job, saving the economy from a catastrophic event. Republicans say they will not do their part to avoid this needless calamity. So be it. But they need to stop playing Russian roulette with the U.S. economy. It's one thing to pay our debts already acquired. It's another to require a supermajority to pay the debts already acquired. It's not right. Let the Democrats vote to raise the debt ceiling this week without obstruction or further delays. Democrats in the House have already passed a bill that would do that. It's sitting in the United States Senate where Democrats have the votes ready to pass it. That's the only way to eliminate the uncertainty and risk that's going to harm American families and our economy. Let us vote and end the mess. You know, we've got to get this done.
So President Biden's basically making the point that raising the debt ceiling is not to further spend more money, not to approve more stimulus, but just to pay the debts that the government has already approved, to pay for the trillions of dollars that we already approved in the previous stimulus packages, to pay for the trillions of dollars in tax cuts that the previous administration gave to millionaires and billionaires. And not just that, a lot of the spending was approved by Democrats as well. This is why Democrats and Republicans usually come together and do this in a bipartisan fashion. Now, personally, I'm not trying to just blame the Republicans. I do think Democrats are at fault as well, because if they were working together better as a party, they wouldn't even be in the situation. They could just include it in the budget reconciliation process, and it wouldn't be a huge problem. But President Biden pointing out the fact that if this does happen, it is going to be a massive disaster for the economy, not just for Social Security benefits, but food stamps will probably be frozen. CHA payments, public housing payments for rents will probably be frozen. People who work for the government, their payments will be frozen as well. This will have catastrophic effects on the entire global economy. Interest rates would probably skyrocket. The stock market would crash. Costs of food would probably skyrocket as well. It would be complete chaos, and this is why something like this has never happened. Now, as far as Social Security payments, let's take a look and see what experts think might happen next. Now, Congress faces an October 18th deadline to raise the U.S. debt ceiling. If it's not increased by that date, the government will find itself in an impossible situation. This is how Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen described the situation. Now, the Treasury has been directed by Congress to continue to pay all of the government's bills, but they need to raise the debt ceiling in order to keep funding the government. Now, this would be catastrophic for American families. Nearly 50 million seniors could stop receiving their Social Security benefits or see them delayed if the government is not funded. Now, the country's debt ceiling is similar to an individual's credit card limit. As the money owed increases, the government must raise the debt limit as well, due to the fact that more money is being spent than money is coming in from taxes. Now, the issue faced by the government now has been compared with 2011, when the debt ceiling was not raised until the very last minute when President Obama was in office. Now, at that time, whether or not the government could continue to make Social Security payments was also called into question. Now, just as they did then, certain Social Security experts have sought to debunk the idea that the program will not have the funds available to pay benefits. Now, among them is Jason Fixture, who is the Vice President and Chief Economist at the Bipartisan Policy Center, who has served in several senior positions in the Social Security Administration. Now, the Social Security Trust Fund holds most of its funds in Treasury bonds. Now, this is why people believe that even if the debt ceiling is not raised, they could sell these funds in order to cash them out for cash when they need to pay out benefits. Now, there are also dedicated trust funds that can only be used to pay Social Security benefits that are independent of the debt ceiling. And experts think that these independent funds are enough to keep paying Social Security benefits for months. Now, the main issue here is logistics. We all know that our government can take weeks or even months to do something that seems so simple as selling a bond. But these systems have a lot of processes in place that could take weeks or months to potentially get this done. So on the one hand, we have experts saying that even if the debt ceiling is not raised, we could just sell these bonds to continue paying out Social Security benefits. But then a lot of experts are saying that selling those bonds are not as simple as you'd think, and it could take a few months to get that done, potentially putting seniors in a situation where Social Security payments are frozen for a couple of months. Now, first of all, we're hoping the government will raise the debt ceiling, and we won't even have to find out the answer to this question, because Social Security has never missed a payment. Through every recession, every depression, every pandemic, every catastrophe that's happened, Social Security payments have always been paid. Now, they haven't been enough. Social Security benefits should be increased, but right now we're talking about whether or not they're going to be paid. Now, at the end of the day, we're hoping the debt ceiling will be raised and we won't even have to worry about this. But currently, it's looking like Republicans are not going to make that easy, and Democrats are having a hard time including that in their budget reconciliation package. The chances of Social Security payments actually being frozen are pretty small. I would say 10% or less. But the fact that it's even a possibility makes it worth talking about, guys. And that is why I'm talking about it on this channel. Just so you know, this could potentially happen. It's not to scare you, to make you think that it's most likely going to happen. It's most likely not going to happen, but you should be prepared just in case. So currently, Democrats are expected to bring this to a vote in the Senate and try and suspend the debt ceiling until December to make sure they can keep funding the government and avoid this from being an issue. However, Republicans are expected to block this, and experts think that Democrats will then scramble to try and include this in budget reconciliation, but they only have about 14 days to get this done. So we should have a lot of updates in the next couple of days. Please subscribe, and I will keep you updated as soon as we have more information as to whether or not the debt ceiling crisis is going to cause a Social Security crisis. President Biden just gave a speech explaining exactly what is happening right now, why he wants to get his stimulus packages done, and avoid a debt ceiling crisis that could defund the government and potentially freeze Social Security payments. So guys, with that said, let's take a look, see exactly what President Biden had to say, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below.
Look, I know there's a lot of noise in Washington, there always is, but it seems to me a little more than usual now. A whole lot of hyperbole, a lot of heat, and I'm here today to try to set some things straight if I can. I want to talk about what's fundamentally at stake for our country now, at this moment. I know it's an overused phrase, but I've been using it a lot. We're at an inflection point. Anywhere from 40 to 80 years in America, there's an inflection point. We have to choose what direction we're going to go, what we're going to do, not Democrat, Republican, but who we're going to be. For a long time, America set the pace across the entire globe. For the better part of the 20th century, we led the world by a significant margin in investments in ourselves, in our people, in our country. We invested in our infrastructure, in our roads, highways, bridges, ports, airports, and the arteries of the nation that allow commerce to function smoothly and swiftly and allow us to generate significant income. We've invested in our people and opportunity. We're among the first to provide access, for example, to free education. It's the reason why in the 20th century we began to take off. It was back in the late 1890s. We decided among the first countries that we were going to be the first nation that every single American, regardless of their background, no, it wasn't at the time regardless of their background, but based on income, would have free 12 years of education. We invested to win the space race. We led the world in research and development, led to the creation of the internet. And but then something happened. We slowed up. We stopped investing in ourselves. America is still the largest economy in the world. We still have the most productive workers and the most innovative minds in the world. But we risk losing our edge as a nation. Our infrastructure used to be the best in the world, literally, not figuratively. Today, according to the World Economic Forum, we rank 13th. Our infrastructure, 12 nations have a better infrastructure than we do, which means they can move product. They can do so many things better than we can do it. We're among the first in the world to guarantee access to universal education. Now, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development ranks America 35th out of 37 major countries when it comes to investing in early childhood education as a percent of GDP. Think of that. Think of that. Of all the industrial nations in the world, the instinct Americans would say, if you asked them 25 years ago, would say we're number one. We are not. There's only 2 industrial nations that are lower than us. All those investments that fuel the strong economy, we've taken our foot off the gas. I don't know what's happened. The world has taken notice, by the way, including our adversaries. And now they're closing the gap in a big way. So it's essential that we regain our momentum that we've lost and the work of our time, it seems to me, those of us who hold public office, is to prepare ourselves to be more competitive and to win the fast-changing 21st century in the global economy. Things are changing incredibly quickly. That's why I propose 2 critical pieces of legislation being debated back in Washington right now. The first, a bill to invest in our physical infrastructure. And the second is a bill to invest in our human infrastructure. I'll talk about both these bills in just a moment, but first, I want to set one thing straight. These bills are not about left versus right, or moderate versus progressive, or anything that pits Americans against one another. These bills are about competitiveness versus complacency. They're about opportunity versus decay. They're about leading the world or continue to let the world pass us by, which is literally happening. To support these investments is to create a rising America, America that's moving. To oppose these investments is to be complicit in America's decline. To support these bills is to pursue a broader vision of our nation, and to oppose them is to accept a very cramped view of our future. This isn't about 2 pieces of legislation. It's about the inflection point I mentioned earlier we are in our history, the world history. So, here's what I'm proposing. First, the infrastructure bill. It's about rebuilding our roads, our highways, our bridges, our ports, our airports, our broadband, all the things that need repair. Our arteries of our economy have always been fueled by the economic might and dynamism of Americans. Across the country right now, 45,000 bridges and 173,000 miles of roads, according to the Society of Engineers, are in poor condition. Right now, including more than 1,200 bridges as the governor's been fighting to repair here in your state, 7,300 miles of roads here in Michigan. I'll bet everyone in this room can tell me what the most dangerous intersection in this town or any town they live in and where it is. That you hold your breath when you're driving over trying to cross the street. Not a joke. Working with the governor and members of the Congress here, we're going to put hardworking Americans like the operating engineers here in Howell on the job to bring back our infrastructure and bring it up to speed. Good union jobs, not $12, $15, $18, prevailing wage jobs.
Okay, so obviously Biden doubling down and blaming Republicans for not raising the debt ceiling and potentially causing an economic crisis and even a social security crisis because payments could potentially be frozen. Now, again, that's not personally what I'm saying. Personally, I think both sides could be doing a better job. But guys, let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. In any case, October 18th is the deadline that the White House has set to raise the debt ceiling and avoid a crisis when it comes to funding. So guys, don't forget to subscribe, and I will keep you posted as things develop. And with that said, thank you so much for watching, and until the next video, take care and have a great day.